Get your marks and let's go racing, boys and girls. NASCAR, Indycar, Formula One, Formula E, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here is your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
Well, we are without producer John once again this week. He seems to think, though, that his time to return is coming soon. But we'll soldier on with a lot of Formula One talk. And when I say a lot of Formula One talk, I mean a lot of Formula One talk. But past that, we're also going to look at NASCAR teams making the final preparations for the 2024 season, which, in case you hadn't looked at the calendar, actually gets underway this weekend. Yay. Well, we think. Depends on whether Mother Nature interferes or not. We'll give you the full schedule. We'll give you how to watch. We can't give you an umbrella, sorry. We will recap the 24 hours of Daytona, including an official's mistake. We'll detail that for you. We got more scheduling news in Formula One. Chip Ganassi had to issue a massive apology, and it's for such a sad story, unfortunately. All that, so much more. We'll get rolling with it when we come back right here on CRN. And moving under its own power, shall we? Hey there. I'm Steve West. That's Matt Nicholson over there. Appreciate you joining us this morning. Let's talk about racing last weekend real quick. And we kick off with the second race in the doubleheader weekend for the fine folks in Formula E, where Nick Cassidy has to feel like 2024 is a dream come true so far. He began the season as pretty much hot as anyone could possibly be. Podium finishes in the first 2 races of the year, and then in only his 3rd race for Jaguar TCS, gets him a win. It's the 6th Formula E win of his career in only his 50th race. Cassidy bested Envision Racing's Robin Freins by less than half a second, so tight racing there. Oliver Rowland 3rd, trailed by Jake Hughes, Stoffel Van Dorn, Sasha Fenestraz. Then you got Pascal Wehrlein, Jean-Eric Verne, Max Gunther, and Mitch Evans completing the top 10. So 3 races into the year, already Nick Cassidy with a big lead, 57 points to 38 over Pascal Wehrlein. Jean-Eric Verne is sitting in 3rd with 33. Jake Dennis with 28, 21 for Mitch Evans. Max Gunther in there with 20, Robin Freins 18. 3-way tie, 8th, 9th, and 10th at 18 points. Sebastian Buemi, Oliver Rowland, Jake Hughes. Because of the hot start, we also have Jaguar TCS with a big lead already in the team points, 78 to 47 over DS Penske, which I got to remember, this is the former Dragon Penske team that since DS joined them to begin the 2023 season, suddenly this team has found themselves and they're performing well.
They have woken up quite well.
They have. 38 for Tag Heuer Porsche, Andretti Formula E and Envision Racing tied at 37. Neo McLaren has 30, yeah, that's them. Then Nissan. Sorry, I'm confusing myself. Nissan 26, Maserati 22 for ERT. They got a couple of points there. Mahindra and ABT Cooper still 2 teams waiting to score their first points of the year. Well, shortly after they got done in Formula E, IMSA got their 2024 season rolling with the prestigious Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona. And as much as Nick Cassidy must feel like his season is a dream, you got to consider Roger Penske. It's the captain. I mean, you think about the 2023 he had. Got an Indy 500 win, got his 3rd Cup Series title, and with all the other accolades and the accomplishments that he's racked up in his storied career, you can now get another 24 Hours of Daytona overall win. And here's the thing. This is not his first one, but it is his first one since 1969.
When I saw that, I was like, huh?
Yeah.
One would have thought, and would have never thought, let me rephrase that Penske would go 54 years in between a Rolex victory. I thought he had 1 or 2 in between that since then.
I would have thought he had a handful of them, truth be told.
Yep.
So congratulations to him. Felipe Nasser, the driver behind the wheel of the Porsche Penske entry when the checkered flag was flying, held off a hard-charging Tom Blomqvist over the final 45 minutes to secure that win. Again, 54-year gap for the captain and his racing team. Think about that. And think about this. After 24 hours of racing, your margin of victory, 0.08 of a second.
Wild.
Yeah, it was fun to watch. It really was.
It was. No doubt.
Nasser was part of a 4-driver team that included 2-time IndyCar champion Joseph Newgarden, plus sports car drivers Matt Campbell and Dane Cameron in the number 7 GTP class entry, finishing 9th overall in the LMP2 division and winning that division. 3-driver team of Dwight Merriman, Ryan Dalziel, and Christian Rasmussen. They drive for Era Motorsport. Finishing first in GTD Pro and 17th overall was the Windward Racing 4-driver team of Daniel Serra, David Rion, and this one's an interesting name, Alessandro Pierre. That is one word, Alessandro Pierre Guidi. And if I got that wrong, I apologize. James Collado. And the first finisher in the GTD division, not GDT Pro, just GDT. We learned a little bit about this last year. GDT Pro means that all the drivers do this for a living. They are race car drivers and nothing else. GTD
is more of a Pro-Am division.
Yeah. These are drivers who race on the weekends, but they have other jobs, so to speak.
I mean, for an example, last year, and I'm not sure if he competed again this year or not, but the head of Ford Motorsport, Jim Farley, the CEO, drove in the race.
Nice job if you can get it.
So when I'm standing there going, I'm going,
I can do that.
Yeah, I think I can do that too.
Again, first finisher in that division, 19th overall, the foursome of Philip Ellis, Indy Dantier, Daniel Morad, and Russell Ward. They were driving for Risi Competizione. I'm thinking probably Lamborghini. Maybe Ferrari.
I think it was a Lamborghini.
Okay. Now, if you are sharp-eyed, And I'll admit, I was not watching. I was listening because they were airing this on Sirius XM satellite radio too.
I was watching it and I caught it.
So I was listening. But if you were watching, and even the commentators on radio were actually a little bit confused by this as well. You might have wondered, though, why the checkered flag got shown with 1 minute, 35.277 seconds still showing on the race clock. Because obviously, with a minute left, hitting the start-finish line, they might have actually come close. I'm not certain that they would have been able to come around again and start another lap, but it would have been close.
The way the rule is, it's whenever time expires, +1.
Yeah. So here comes the checkered flag again. Time in the 24 hours still showing on the clock. IMSA said Monday that it was indeed an inadvertent flag. It got shown early due to an officiating error that prompted the early showing of the checkered flag, but they also noted and quoted an IMSA rule, and I don't have the exact number of the rule left, but under IMSA rules, they state that regardless of whether there is time left on the clock in a timed race, if the checkered flag is shown, the race is determined to be complete at that point in time.
And it's probably unfortunate, but I think it was one of the IMSA's female flagmen. She may not be on the box much more.
Maybe not.
I mean, if I understood correctly and what I seen in regards to it, race official gave her the notification, and supposedly she misunderstood it. And threw the white.
She was probably told, prepare the checkered flag, and instead
prepare the white to throw the checker, but threw it immediately when the leader crossed the line.
Pulled the wrong one.
When it should have been, because the race would have probably timed out when they were coming out of turn 4.
Probably. It would have been close.
Or right at the line.
It would have been close, but yeah, I could see that.
Then it's the +1 lap.
Yeah.
Because they were running well under the GTP class was running well under the 135 mark last year.
Yeah.
And I know they got quicker this year.
Yeah. So it would have been real close to see how that would have gone.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's the explanation that we got from IMSA on that. This weekend, NASCAR getting their 2024 season rolling. You know it, the Busch Light Clash. That is this weekend, presuming Mother Nature lets them.
Busch Light Clash boat race.
Yeah. Fox Sports 1 actually has the coverage starting later on today, Saturday, the 3rd of February, as we talk about this live on the air. If you're catching us at a later time on CRN Live on YouTube, this is a Saturday show. But anyway, it starts 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 3:30 p.m. Central Time. That's NASCAR Mexico Series qualifying. So if you kind of want to see if there's much difference between Cup Series and Mexico Series, this will be your opportunity. Cup Series then hits the track with practice at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central. That'll be followed by the 4 heat races to help set the lineup for Sunday's headlining race. Then Sunday, again, presuming we could get it in, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m. Central Time, Fox Sports 1 NASCAR Mexico Series race would get rolling, and then everything moves over to Fox. Coverage would start at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Central. Cup Series last chance qualifier. Remember, we got to get 23 cars in here. 20 of them will go in through the heat races, 2 cars through the last chance qualifier, and then finally the highest points finisher who did not otherwise get into the race will then be put in for 23 starters, which would be the Busch Light Clash, presumably, getting rolling at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central Time. Again, we've got this, and this is a relatively new term for me, and I've been in broadcasting for coming on 40 years now. An atmospheric river is over Los Angeles, which means they could get multiple inches of rain. So Albert Hammond's song of "It never rains in Southern California, but it pours," it's very true.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network.
Locally owned and family operated. Wise Environment.
tires only. And back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Good morning to you. Steve West, Matt Nicholson along with you, and good grief.
I think the appropriate way to introduce this segment is let us clear our throats.
Yeah. And give us a moment here, because we're going to have plenty of commentary on this, but we want to get through this, and we're going to do it chronologically, because it is important to note how this kind of went down this week, and that's going to be part of our commentary. And we've mentioned this before on the show, something that producer John mentioned to us a number of years ago. Regardless of series, take the biggest story of the week, put that at the top. There's no doubt this is the biggest story of the week. It's the Andretti Cadillac Formula One saga. And things actually started happening pretty quickly this week on this. So Monday, organization got to talking about their progress working up to becoming a full operation. They've been using the Toyota wind tunnel in Cologne, Germany since last October, using a 2024 spec racer that the team says could easily be transitioned into a 2025 racer if they wanted to. And you can see a picture of that car on CRN Live on YouTube right now, courtesy of Andretti Global. And here's the thing. I mean, it's a very kind of a plain looking car. I mean, there's nothing spectacular about it. It's not painted up or anything like that, but it is a legitimate Formula One car that's going to give them an idea of some aerodynamics.
If you look at some of the side pods, I looked at this picture too. If you look at some of the side pods and the bottom aerodynamics around the side pods,
yeah,
it resembles a Haas car to me.
In a lot of ways. Yeah, in a lot of ways.
Some of the Haas design.
Yeah. So we don't really know where they got this. They haven't said whether they built this in-house, whether they got a rolling chassis from somebody and put a body on it from somebody else. None of that information was revealed. All we know is that this was a spec racer that they built to what they understood to be the 2024 rules. Because they said, depending on what time and how the approval process went along, we might get into things as soon as 2025. But you and I have talked about that here on the show before, how it didn't make any sense because the engine regulations and therefore some of the other things are going to change radically in 2026. So why would you spend all the money to go racing for 1 year under one set of rules and then have to thoroughly change everything to go to a next set of rules?
Mm-hmm.
And they addressed that.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense.
Yeah, and the team even addressed that, you said.
Yeah, they released a statement that was, let me go back to it where I can read it straightforward. It was from for F1 reporter Chris Medlin.
Okay. Trust him. I've seen plenty of stuff that he's come up with, and yeah, real good reporter.
Well, if I can go to it now. Trying to find it. Anyways, but what it said, the basic gist of it is we initially are preparing for 2026 due to where the engine regulations.
So it makes sense.
It makes too much sense.
Exactly. So, in addition to testing in the Toyota wind tunnel in Cologne, Germany, the team has a base in England near the noted Silverstone racecourse, which is where, quite frankly, a lot of the teams in Formula One they're very close to that. So they have their base there. They say they've got a skeleton crew, which is, they say, added on to with new hires almost weekly. Again, this is Monday. The facility will be ready to move into soon. Meantime, with Cadillac's help, there's a whole lot of R&D work being done in Charlotte, North Carolina at the General Motors Center. Some 50 people are working on the project there. And then finally, there is the Andretti Global World Headquarters, which is currently being constructed in Fishers, Indiana, just northeast of downtown Indianapolis. That's going to be a 600,000 square foot facility with plans of about roughly half that to be devoted to the Formula One operation, including the manufacture of the cars, wrapping, installing the power units, and then they would get sent off to England, where final touches would be made before they got sent off to the whatever racetrack they would happen to be going to that particular weekend. So yeah, the plan, they say, ultimately would be to work out of 4 different locations up to a point where they probably figured out when they could build a wind tunnel of their own. And then it might drop down to 3.
Well, if you've got a 600,000 square foot facility, I'm sure you could devote 8 to 10,000 to a wind tunnel. Pretty easily.
Yeah, but you also got to realize something. They've got to follow with this particular shop, they got to follow not only Formula One rules, but IMSA rules and IndyCar rules too. That might be throwing things up.
And Formula E.
That's true. So if I were to guess,
Yeah.
if they were to build a wind tunnel, it probably would be in the F1 operation in Silverstone.
Probably so.
Okay. Well, the team's technical director, Nick Chester, got into talking to motorsport.com in this report on Monday, said, quote, I think obviously we'd prefer to have the formal entry and a target year for that bit of focus, but I think we're very happy with the process that we went through with the FIA. Very rigorous. We ticked all the boxes. We're heads down trying to push on to have a competitive car ready for whatever year that entry comes. I think everyone's reasonably confident given the funding, the Andretti name, the tie-up with GM doing their own power unit for 2028, that it should happen. Keep that in mind right there. Chester, the former technical boss at Renault F1, also noted that the team does not actually have a drop-dead date when it comes to entering the series either next season or delaying until 2026. Chester only said about that, quote, we don't really have one. Just the earlier that we know, the better the car we can do. Again, it makes a whole heck of a lot more sense for them to delay until 2026. Go ahead and kick off with the new engine regulations, right? Well, Wednesday, Formula One management decided to throw cold water on the idea, but it wasn't ice cold.
Lukewarm, or what I would call it.
All right. Let's first deal with Monday. This is Michael Andretti saying, hey, listen, I have every intention of racing Formula One. I've got this huge facility in Indianapolis. Half of that's going to be devoted to F1. I've already got a facility that I'm working on in Silverstone, England. I've got a car that I'm already starting to do research and development on in a wind tunnel in Cologne. And I have an agreement with Alpine to use a motor until General Motors / Cadillac has their motor ready for 2028. Literally, Nick Chester said it. Got all of our ducks in a row. The I's were dotted, the T's were crossed. You had nothing to complain about. Everything was sitting there for them to get right up to the little carnival game and start shooting every single duck down.
Now, this may be a little bit of foreshadowing here, but what their agreement that they had with Alpine and Renault is no different than McLaren and Mercedes.
Right.
Haas and Ferrari.
True.
Williams and Mercedes.
True.
Aston Martin and Mercedes.
Or for that matter, Red Bull and what is now Visa Cash App RB, which they're sister organizations, I get it, but technically they're a customer.
By default, yes.
This is a customer deal where you are buying and or leasing engines from this company for your race team.
So that's technically a clean move.
There's nothing wrong.
Box checked.
Yeah. But yet Wednesday, we learned that Formula One management rejected the idea of the Andretti Cadillac entry. But the reason we say that they didn't throw ice cold water on it is because they then hedged their bets by leaving the door open to be able to revisit the Andretti Cadillac application. Quick review. The FIA approved one and only one application. Remember this last year, it was the Andretti Global entry, which was helped, no doubt, by Cadillac coming on board as a co-applicant with the plans, obviously, to supply the engines, the power units there. But the FIA approval was only step one, because then it went to Formula One and Formula One's management group, or the FOM. They needed to approve it. And from the get-go, Formula One management group and the 10 existing teams in Formula One were all expressing doubt about the approval, making it seem something of a fait accompli that it would be denied, but they kept shuffling their feet on announcing the decision, and apparently now we really know why. Formula One Management Group's statement read this, quote, and this is a fairly long statement, but I think it's important we give it to you. F1 statement reads as follows, quote, we do not believe that there is a basis for any new applicant to be admitted in 2025, given that this would involve a novice entrant building two completely different cars in its first 2 years of existence. We'll stop there for a moment because we've already addressed that. Yes, Andretti did say that there was some initial thought about trying to get in 2025 just to get their feet wet. But then they realized how much money they would spend to go from 2025 over to 2026 and the new engine regulations, and realized it really didn't make a whole lot of sense to do that. So from what we can tell, that plan got scrapped.
All right, got the statement right here.
Okay.
All right. Hitting back at the F1 comments from Andretti Cadillac. It was working towards 2026, not 2025, as the length of the process took that out of contention completely. Andretti Cadillac was not aware that the offer of any said meeting had been extended and would not decline one with FOM, Formula One Management, and they want one.
Yeah. Apparently, the invitation to have a face-to-face meeting with Formula One Management was sent via email.
Okay.
And guess where that email landed? In the Andretti Global junk folder.
Now we've got, I want to put an asterisk by that one right there personally.
Okay.
Because Chris Medlin stated where this come from, and according to Jenna Fryer.
Okay.
We know Jenna Fryer's track record hasn't gotten too good here lately.
Yeah, it's been spotty.
It's been very spotty. According to, I would use that one loosely, personally.
But here's something else that, to me, is just as important. If, and I'll just for simplicity purposes, I'll put us, you and me, into this same situation. If I'm Formula One Management and I want a meeting with you, Andretti Global, yeah, I could understand sending an email, but I'm going to make a phone call. Because you can't tell me that on all the paperwork that Andretti Global had to fill out with the FIA and Formula One in order to even put the application in, that they didn't have a phone number readily available somewhere on that application for you to call.
Or the way some things are going in the world today, or even a simple text message.
A text message.
Hey, this is...
I'm going to cover all of the bases here because we're talking millions, potentially billions of dollars at stake here. So I'll be willing to send you an email, but I'm going to phone call you. I'm going to text you. I'm going to send a Western Union messenger. I'm going to send shipped, DoorDash. I don't care who it is. I'm going to find homing pigeon. It doesn't matter. Because, again, there's a lot of money at stake here for you and technically for me as Formula One Management. I'm not just going to send one email and presume it makes it to you.
Agreed. I'm using every avenue possible if I'm wanting a meeting.
Yeah.
Every avenue possible to make sure it gets received.
And I'll flip that table and put myself in the place of Andretti Global and put Matt in the place of Formula One Management. If I even have an inkling that there might be a chance at a face-to-face meeting to be able to make my case, I'm not only going to send an email, but I'm going to make a phone call. I'm going to start sending registered letters and text messages and everything that I can to make it perfectly clear I'm open to a face-to-face meeting. Here's how to contact me best.
And I'm going to be... Now, let me reverse the table here. Let me reverse it on Steve. If I'm Andretti Cadillac, he's F1 Management. Like you said, I'm getting an inkling of that, and I'm like, yeah, they might want a meeting. I'm either getting on a commercial jet or I'm getting on a private jet. Yes, there are some private jets that can make it from the U.S. to England.
Oh, yeah.
Easily.
And I bet they've got access to one if they don't own it.
And I am going to be landing at Heathrow in London, and I'm going to world headquarters in London. I'm like,
yeah,
you needed me?
Yeah.
I'm here.
What do you need?
Let's do it.
Let's have a seat. Conference room available?
Yeah.
You want to go to lunch? Whatever. Anyway, F1 statement continues, quote, the fact that the applicant proposes to do so, again, going back to the idea of a 2025 entry, gives us reason to question their understanding of the scope of the challenge involved. While a 2026 entry would not face this specific issue, it is nevertheless the case that Formula One, as the pinnacle of world motorsport, Don't think much of yourself, do you? Represents the unique technical challenge to constructors of a nature that the applicant has not faced in any other formula or discipline in which it has previously competed.
Timeout.
By all means, pick it up.
I'm going to throw timeout on this one. Has not faced in any other formula or discipline which it has previously competed. Okay, so are you taking away them in an open wheel series? Let's use that term widely used.
Correct me if I'm wrong. They're already involved in 2 of those. Indycar, Formula E.
Yeah.
Okay, just checking.
What banner's Formula E under?
That would be right, the FIA. And it is a world championship under the FIA banner, similar to Formula One.
When we get through with this right here on our little side of it, I'm going to pull up a statement that Bob Varsha.
This is going to be fun.
Very, very loud voice
and highly
respected voice within the Formula One media circle.
Mm-hmm. Formula One management statement continues, and it, Andretti Cadillac, proposes to do so with a dependency on a compulsory power unit supply in the initial years of its participation. That's that Alpine engine that we were talking about. On this basis, we do not believe that the applicant would be a competitive participant.
All right, every referee on the field is throwing their flag right here on this one.
Yeah. And here's my biggest concern on that statement right there. If I was Alpine, I'd be royally ticked off.
Ooh, in the most southern way of me to say this, ooh, son, what you talking about?
If I'm Alpine, I'm on the phone going, hey, that's our power unit.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
You just put down our power unit and effectively our whole team.
Exactly. It sounds to me the statement was written by somebody like Toto Wolff.
You might be right.
All right. Not a competitive participant. Okay. Let's back up here. Over the past 5 years, let's say 5 years.
Okay.
Who's consistently been at the bottom? Williams.
Mm-hmm. Haas F1.
Haas F1. And I would even throw in AlphaTauri, Visa Cash App, Red Bull, Hugo Boss, whatever the name is now.
Yeah. Them and Alfa Romeo.
Alfa Romeo's been in just one step up the rung off the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, what? Think about these particular ones that we've just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
These are all customer teams.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Haas F1 with Ferrari, Alfa Romeo with Ferrari.
Yeah.
Williams, as we noted, Mercedes engine. And again, AlphaTauri, it's a Red Bull sister organization.
So basically the Honda.
Okay.
Basically.
Look at what Mercedes has done. Look at what Red Bull has done. Look at what
Ferrari
has done. And I'm talking about under their own banners. And then compare what they have done to what has been going on with their customer operations.
So basically what they're trying to say here is this. You've got your works teams. You've got your customer teams. So by default, without even seeing the race car on the track,
mm-hmm.
they're saying, oh, you're going to be like the other customer teams where your works teams are just walking the dog here. I could guarantee you, and I would bet the entire land value of the state of Alabama, Florida, California, and New York.
Adding California in. Okay.
The land values of that right there, and put 10-1 odds on it that Andretti's car that they put on the racetrack would outrun those bottom 4 customer teams the first race, and I would 10 times my money.
But, and we're going to go to break on this, and then we'll continue this after the fact. But I'm gonna wrap up this segment on this. Here's the thing. Haas F1 came in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
For the first 2 years, they were doing nothing but paying in. They weren't part of the payout.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, Haas F1 in the first 2 races of their history placed at least one car inside the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
And all 9 other teams pitched holy you-know-what
mm-hmm.
saying, how in the world, they must be cheating. Mm-hmm. So either you're darned if you do or you're danged if you don't.
That's the way it is with a lot of things in life nowadays.
What does Formula One care if Andretti comes in and for the first couple of years, they flat out stink on ice? Mm-hmm. They're not having to pay Andretti Global as part of the season-ending prize package, number one.
Yep.
And number two, this is the team having the opportunity to go ahead and run those first couple of years before General Motors comes in with their Cadillac motor, which will be labeled Cadillac, not GM, and allow them to become that works team. This is their opportunity to get all that stuff, all that preliminary stuff out of the way. We'll continue after this.
We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
So we're into the Formula One management statement that on Wednesday rejected, initially at least, the idea of the Andretti Global entry coming in 2025 or 2026. And we say initially because there is a door or a window that's been left open, which we're going to get to. So the Formula One management statement continues by saying, quote, "Our assessment process has established that the presence of an 11th team would not, on its own, provide value to the championship." I can't wait to get back into that. "The most significant way in which a new entrant would bring value is by being competitive. We do not believe that the applicant would be a competitive participant In addition, the addition of an 11th team would place an operational burden on race promoters, would subject some of them to significant costs, reducing the technical, operational, and commercial spaces of the other competitors. We were not able to identify any material expected positive effect on the financial results as a key indicator of the pure commercial value of the championship. Before we get into them leaving the door open, yes, we have an American-based team in Haas F1. No, they really haven't performed all that well, save for the 1 year where they finished 5th in the championship. It was a really good year for them.
Yep.
I've looked at all of these courses. Every single course that Formula One goes to has a pit paddock that will cover at least 11 teams.
Or, remember these 4 words, or has room for expansion.
So, considering the fact that we're already talking about many of these, and we're going to get into another one of those stories here pretty soon, of these facilities that are coming towards the end of contracts, or just say, hey, we want to make sure that we maintain a relationship and continue to host Formula One on the long term. We're going to make sure that our facilities are state-of-the-art, up-to-date, and capable of handling these potential of not just the 10 that are currently running, but more. They're making sure that they have the facilities on hand that will host this. This is not a massive burden to host an 11th team or an extra 2 racers.
Another asterisk here. I'm going to use a track here in the United States of America as an example.
Okay.
That little place in Austin, Texas called Circuit of the Americas.
Mm-hmm. Nice facility.
If that facility can hold, let's just say, if it can hold 38 Cup cars, 40 to 42 Xfinity cars.
Yep.
And let's just say 38 trucks.
Which they did last year and are slated to do again this year.
And you're sending 2 trucks home. Let's just go for fun. Let's go the field size, full field size. 38 Xfinity cars, 36 trucks. That's 74.
40 Cup cars.
40 Cup cars. That is 114 cars and haulers. If Circuit of the Americas can hold 114 race vehicles, Formula One can sure hold 22.
Yeah. Even some of the oldest facilities that are currently being run. Silverstone, which was the host of the very first Formula One race. Right now, they comfortably host all 10 Formula One teams. And guess what?
And F2 and F3.
And guess what? Formula One, or the Formula Feeder Series for that matter, ain't the only racing that Silverstone hosts.
Nope.
So if you don't think that they've got enough pit room to be able to carry 11 or even 12 Formula One cars, sorry, that argument right there doesn't hold water. During the break, Matt also came up with something else. If we, as Andretti Cadillac, pay the $200 million entry fee per the Concord Agreement, get the car ready, and it's approved by Formula One's technical people as being safe enough to go out there, what in the heck does Formula One care if we stink on ice?
Very true. Let me go find the statement.
Why would they care if we're not that competitive to begin with?
Here we go. An extremely loud and respected voice within, I'm going to say, world motorsports media.
I would agree.
Bob Varsha. And me personally, if there's one person that does it on a weekly basis, and I can't speak for him, But for me, if I had the opportunity to call a race side by side with somebody within motorsports media, call one, I'm hoping Bob Varsha's in the chair beside me.
Hey, Bob Varsha would be right up there on that list.
All right. He went on, and when the opportunity arises, I will throw that statement out there, but he went on an absolute tear on his social media account. I mean, bombing at Formula One media about this. One of his statements, and he had gotten a reply, said, F1 is technically owned by Americans, but still feels like a European-centric business club. Interesting, as this was similar to the issue when Michael Andretti had when he went to F1, criticism not living in Europe, etc.
Now, keep in mind what we've said here on this show, talking about Liberty Media. And Liberty Media is an American-based corporation. But we specifically, whenever we talk about them in relation to Formula One, we state that they are the Formula One commercial rights holders.
All right.
What does that mean? Commercial rights holders means they have the rights to negotiate with the tracks as far as what tracks are going to be on the schedule, number one. And number two, the broadcast partners.
Yep.
Past that, no. Bob Varsha continues.
All right. He quote tweets him. It says, quote, F1 is owned by the FIA. FOM, Formula One Media, Formula One Management, Liberty Media owns the commercial rights, as Steve just said. But your point about an anti-American bias is well taken.
Does seem so.
Andretti GM also pledged a massive ad buy and entries into the Junior Series F2 and F3.
So they're not just looking to get into Formula One. They are going full bore into Formula One racing, including the ladder.
It's something, a very similar statement we just made earlier about giving the details, everything. And it was actually part of what you said on one of the F1 statements. Adam Stern quoted this F1 statement as it was said earlier. We do not believe there is a basis for any new applicant to be admitted in 2025. Okay, we've established that. He quote tweets that one and says this quote, as Steve just said, if said applicant is willing to do it and you already have their money, what business is it of yours?
Yeah. If they stink on ice, that's on the race team.
Exactly.
Now, we've talked about how several things have come together in kind of a confluence to where Formula One is kind of like what we call soccer here in the United States. Okay? Formula One is another racing series here in the U.S. where NASCAR's king. Formula One is another racing series, kind of like soccer is another major league sport where American football is king. Everywhere else on the planet, Formula One rules in motorsports, and what we call soccer or football rules everywhere else. Okay? But Formula One has done some shrewd things. They have made sure that, yes, even though they had a 5-year break between Indianapolis and when Circuit of the Americas got built, that they've had a fairly consistent presence here in the United States of America with at least one race. And Circuit of the Americas has done a very nice job since, what was the debut year, 2012, 2013?
I think so, yeah.
Somewhere in that area. So more than a decade. And now think about it. We have COTA, which last couple of years has had more people go through the turnstiles on a Formula One weekend than any other race on the Formula One schedule. They topped 400,000 people going through in 2022, last years that we have numbers for. They were the only race that had 400,000 people go through the turnstiles on a week.
Yeah, I think Miami only had like 250, 250, something like that.
So then we add Miami. They seem pretty happy there. And we're happy enough to go and add a race and interrupt downtown Las Vegas by putting the race partially on the Strip. And from everything that we can tell, that was quite the success as well, although final numbers aren't in. Then you get Netflix's Formula One Drive to Survive, which, by the way, that'll drop later on this month, towards the end of the month. Can't wait for the new season because I really want to see how they handle the whole Gunther Steiner-Haas F1 deal.
Yeah.
And that has brought about popularity of Formula One here in this country as well. Haas F1 coming in certainly didn't hurt. because at least they had an American team to root for in the United States of America. And let's face it, if we're nothing if not homers here in the United States. But we don't have an American driver. Sorry, Logan Sargent. But we haven't really had an American driver that we could root for. Andretti's talking about flying the American flag with an American-based operation with an American engine coming in 2028. And they promise that they will put an American driver in one of their cars at least.
Colton Herta.
So that will give the American public another reason to go check out Formula One in order to fly the American flag in a non-combative but competitive arena.
I'll go ahead and throw out when this news came out. I'll go ahead and throw out what Bob said on his social media about this. First said point, but the first thing you'd say too, you talking about the races and expansion in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Something that caught my eye that F1 applied for a trademark for a fourth U.S. race. Whether it will happen or not is yet to be seen, but the trademark has been applied for the race.
Yeah.
Chicago.
Uh-huh.
Back to Bob's quote.
Okay.
Right here.
Go for it.
He quote tweets it and says, "So the curtain is pulled back on F1 for what it is. Not a sporting championship, but a private club.
Yeah.
Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren, etc. bring more value than F1 brings them? Please. And suggesting Andretti is in it for the money over the glory is simply offensive to a family of champions."
Yeah.
End quote.
Considering what Andretti has done in motorsports in their history. Yeah. But again, this shows the two-faced side of Formula One management when the statement showed that they would be willing to revisit, quote, "We would look differently on an application for the entry of a team into the 2028 championship with a General Motors power unit, either as a GM Works team or as a GM customer team designing all allowable components in-house. In this case, there would be additional factors to consider in respect of the value of the applicant, Andretti Global, that they would bring to the championship, in particular in respect of bringing a prestigious new OEM, original equipment manufacturer, to the sport as a power unit supplier." In other words, they didn't want to tick off General Motors. But General Motors already threw down the gauntlet that was as immovable as Thor's hammer. Because if Thor ain't picking it up, ain't nobody else picking it up, because I don't see Captain America rolling around anywhere.
And I'm pretty sure General Motors is the last manufacturer of engines that you would want to tick off.
Exactly. And General Motors stated plainly, clearly, and has reiterated it since the initial statement. Yes, we're interested in getting to Formula One. Only with Andretti Global.
Mm-hmm.
They're not interested in selling their power units to Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari, Haas F1, Alpine, Aston Martin, Williams, McLaren, none of the others. They are only interested in joining Formula One with Andretti. It is a package deal. You get both or you get none. Period.
Mm-hmm.
And this is Formula One management going, we'd love to have GM come in, so therefore we're going to leave that opening right there, hoping that we can come in. Again, let them run the first 2 years. Let them stink on ice with an Alpine unit if that's what they choose to do. And then come 2028, they stick the Cadillac labeled unit on it from General Motors, which effectively would be a Chevrolet unit, because that's the way that it is. But it doesn't matter. Stick the Cadillac motor in there, come out with a new car, and let's go see what happens in 2028 when real money's on the line, because 2028 would be, if they started in 2026, the first year that Andretti would suddenly be, that's right, in the prize money at the end of the year for Formula One. No, they're hedging their bets.
They're hedging butts.
They're hedging their butts too. But they're hedging their bets on this because they know that the first couple of years they won't have to pay. So they're going, well, we'll just delay it out as far as we can and hope that we didn't tick off GM and Andretti Global. Trust me, they're ticked off. F1 CEO Stefano Domenicali talked about it. We'll talk about that next.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. Four tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Well, we've been talking pretty much about Andretti Global with the Cadillac and Formula One deal ever since the start of the show, and we're going to continue because this is by far the biggest story of the week and when it comes to racing. We'll get to some other news here, but we feel like this is just too important not to talk about in depth. F1 CEO Stefano Domenicali spoke about the decision after Formula One management kind of said no, but when it came to the Andretti Cadillac entry, added, quote, "We need to make sure that the decision is right for the business, and this is what I think is the duty of the FIA and us together, and that has to be taken." You basically said nothing. That was a perfect politician's answer, Domenicali. This has nothing to do with it. The FIA already said, yes, we like the Andretti Global entry. They liked it even before Cadillac came in. You're the guys who've been hedging your bets. Mm-hmm. And what they're afraid of is exactly the complaint that we talked about late last hour. So we've got Formula One management coming in and complaining, well, we're worried that they're not going to bring a competitive edge right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
But remember what I said when Haas F1 debuted. Their first year of racing, 2016, they placed at least one car inside the top 10 in the very first 2 races of their history. And all 9 other teams, and that includes the team that they're a customer of, Ferrari, started pitching a holy fit, asking for race stewards to start paying much closer attention to Haas F1, thinking they had to be doing something outside of the rules. So here's the problem. Either Formula One management's going to complain that Andretti Global is not competitive to begin with, or Andretti Global comes in with a Cadillac motor and they start tearing things up and they become, I don't know, a high mid-pack contender with a chance to, say, win an odd race or 2 here or there in a relatively short period of time. And
right.
Knowing Andretti and their history, I wouldn't put it past them. And then all 10 other teams immediately start to complain. They've got to be doing something outside of the rules. Which is it? You can't have your cake and eat it too in this case, boys and girls. You either want a competitive team or you want a doormat. But you can't deny them because you think they'll be a doormat, but they might actually be competitive. It doesn't work that way. The NFL is not turning down a potential franchise owner because they think the owner is going to run the team into the ground. If they run the team into the ground, that's on the owner. Same in Major League Baseball, same in the National Basketball Association, same in the National Hockey League, same in Major League Soccer, as it is, I'm sure, in the Premier League, Bundesliga, or whatever other international soccer federation that there is. Mm-hmm. If you, as the owner, spend the millions or billions, as the case may be, to buy said operation, and you run it into the ground, every other sporting entity on the planet goes, that's on you.
Prime example through sports that I would say with that would be David Tepper and the Carolina Panthers.
There you go. Or Daniel Snyder and the Washington Redskins / Washington football team / Washington Commanders.
That now that Josh Harris guy is trying to, I think it's his name, is trying to get rebuilt.
Yeah. Or look at the history of the LA Clippers in the National Basketball Association.
Yeah.
What do you care?
That's now finally building their own arena.
Yeah. Andretti Global finally responded, releasing a short and sweet statement on Thursday in disagreement of the rejection, stating this, quote, Andretti Cadillac has reviewed the information Formula One Management Limited has shared, strongly disagree with its contents. The statement added that there was no way to know whether or not they could be competitive using the Alpine engine in the time frame of 2025 to 2028. And they're right.
They're right, because you're not going to know if you're going to be competitive just by, oh, let's look at the wind tunnel data.
Yeah.
Or let's look at the engine dyno data or whatever.
You can look at statistics all day into next year, but until you put a car on the track, you don't know.
And somebody in the seat with the harnesses latched and the wheel in their hands, you're never going to know.
Don't know.
Exactly.
Former Haas F1 boss, team boss Gunther Steiner appeared on the ESPN podcast Unlapped. He was asked about the decision to deny Andretti an F1 team at this time. He said that he felt it was the series helping Andretti from shooting itself in the foot. I'm going to get back to this. Steiner said, quote, I think they looked at it and thought it was too ambitious. I don't have all the information. There's a key word right there. Maybe they looked at it and said that we want them, but we want to make sure they're successful when they come, protect them from themselves. I think F1 is protecting all the teams, everyone involved in the sport. They didn't close the door completely. They said 28's a new day, a new year. It's quite a few years away. It's not tomorrow, but the door's open. Show us you can get prepared and be competitive. By then, I think we'd welcome them. That goes right back to what we were saying before. What do you care if they come in and they suck right off the bat?
Gunther, look what you did to Gene's team.
This is the equivalent of what we talked about last week of the NASCAR team owners going to NASCAR and saying, hey, listen, we're spending a whole heck of a lot of money within the Xfinity series. Save us from ourselves. And coming up with weird rules like, if you're a 2-car or less team, you can only bring 1 backup car. But if you're a 3 or more car team, we'll allow you to bring 2 backup cars. But you have to pick a color and have the backup car be that solid color And if you have to break out the backup car, just have a sticker package so that you can put your sponsors on there for whatever driver it's going to end up being.
Yeah, that's still a head scratcher.
Save us from ourselves? Stupid.
Because the Xfinity Series is now basically the only non-spec series in NASCAR. They don't run spec engines because, sorry, but you cannot tell me, and if you open the hood of one of these race cars, I'm going to know what I'm looking at. I've been around it long enough. I know. Toyota built their engines off of the Ford engine block. Tell you how I know? Let me back up here. I got it backwards.
Go for it.
I'm going to use Dodge in here too.
Okay.
Dodge built their engines off of the Ford engine block. Let me tell you how you know why. The distributor is in the front, not the back.
Yeah.
Toyota built their design off of GM. Distributor is in the back. All right. With TRD, the only sole engine supplier for Toyota.
Mm-hmm.
Roush Yates, the only sole engine supplier for Ford.
Correct.
Technically, there are 2 engine suppliers for Chevrolet, but they're basically the same design.
Yeah. I mean, you either have an ECR label, Earnhardt Childress Racing as a label, or you have Hendrick as a label.
Hendrick. They're basically the same thing. They work in correlation together. So by default, there is Cup is a spec engine series respective to your manufacturer. Okay. Truck series, 1 engine. Ilmor.
Yep.
That's it. But Xfinity, they all build their engines still.
Save us from themselves.
Yeah, give me a break.
Series need to stop saving teams from themselves. Okay? There's a reason it's called competition. Competition is survival of the fittest by default.
And if they're going to dig their own grave, let them hold their own shovel. You don't hold it for them.
Exactly. I've said this on many, many occasions. If I am the commissioner of a major sport, doesn't matter what it is, and Matt says, I have enough money to start a franchise, and 2 years later, Matt's out of business because he ran it into the ground, what do I care? He's the one that ran it into the ground, not me.
Steve, I've got $480 million. I'm going to put an MLB franchise in Birmingham, work on building my stadium, but until then, I'm going to play my games at the Hoover Met because the White Sox already have an establishment in Birmingham, and I can't borrow Regions Field. So I'm going to go to the Hoover Met.
Knock yourself out.
Here's $480 million.
Knock yourself out. But see if you can make a success out of it.
But I'm going to build a $900 million stadium. I don't know where I would build. Oh, let's say this. When Caraway Hospital gets torn down completely, I'm going to build it on the grounds of Caraway Hospital.
There you go.
Which that might not be the best part of town to build one in, but hey, we're going to build it there. So I'm putting in $1.3 billion of my money, nearly $1.4 billion. Guess what? The MLB that Steve's the commissioner of has got $1.4 billion of my money, basically.
What do I care?
Plus the operational costs of my team of day-to-day operations.
What do I care?
Well, yeah, what does he care? I got your money. That's on you.
Yep. You run it into the ground. That's your fault. If you can't continue the franchise and if you can't sell it, that's on you.
Or hypothetically, is it this? Are they, because they know the money that Michael Andretti will throw on the table to make a competitive entry?
Look at the money he's already thrown.
And whatever, throw more money. Let's read it that way. More money. Throw it on the table to use all that, and then, Christian Horner going, where'd he come from?
Yeah.
Toto Wolff. Oh, boy. You know?
If I'm Michael Andretti, I'm talking with Cadillac, I'm ensuring, first and foremost, I'm ensuring that they're still in with me for the long haul. That's first. And then second, I'm not stopping a darn thing I'm doing. But you know what I am doing? I'm going to turn every bit of my attention to 2028. I'm going to find every single rule that applies so far, and I'm going to follow it to the T, and I'm going to start working towards 2028. And when I come out, I want to break out so bad that I want all 10 other teams screaming bloody murder at Formula One management going, they've got to be cheating. Nope. You told us in 2024 you couldn't have us until 2028. You gave us 4 years. Mm-hmm. That's what we did with it.
And if I'm GM, I'm taking that engine and I'm within the specifications and rule book of F1, building my parts of my engine and putting my engine together within that specifications. But I'm finding every way possible to throw 1,200 horsepower into it.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Absolutely. So, with that being said, let's talk about some other stuff, shall we?
Sure.
And in what otherwise would have been the biggest story of the week, Mercedes is about to lose 7-time F1 champion Lewis Hamilton. That's right. Last year, Lewis Hamilton signed a 2-year deal. But it appears that only the 2024 portion of that was a lock. The 2025 year was optional. Who knew? As such, Hamilton's set to leave Mercedes at the end of the year, and the team he's been long linked with, Ferrari, is where he's going. That's right. This is official, boys and girls. That may have been as clear as mud in the picture on CRN Live on YouTube that we got from Hamilton's own Facebook page. Thanks. We think. Hamilton, 39 years old this year. As noted, 7-time champion. 6 of those championships came with Mercedes. His first came with McLaren. He's set to replace Carlos Sainz. He'll pair with Charles Leclerc, who, as we talked about here in the last couple of weeks, has signed an extension of his deal with Ferrari already. Hamilton said Thursday that making the move away from Mercedes, quote, was one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make, unquote. But with his 7 titles, we've talked about this, he's tied with former Ferrari driver Michael Schumacher in all-time series titles. With 103 wins in the series, is already the series' winningest driver in their history. But presuming that he could claim a record-breaking 8th title, it would mean that Hamilton would join a very exclusive club. Number one, he'd be the only member of an 8-championship club in Formula One. And number 2, he would win a title with then 3 different teams. And the only other driver that's ever done that was Juan Manuel Fangio, who pulled off the third with the 3rd team in 1957. That's a while ago, boys and girls.
Quite a while.
In case you don't want to do the math. We'll just leave it at that. Now, this also means this, that stability of the drivers that we saw from 2023 to 2024, out the window already. And we haven't even started the 2024 race year. It also means that the soon-to-be empty seat that Hamilton currently occupies is going to be a very hot topic until Mercedes figures out who's going to pair with George Russell. And Russell is signed, without an option, through 2025. We're already hearing names. Carlos Sainz actually technically isn't one of them.
Which is absolutely remarkably dumb, if you ask me.
Daniel Ricciardo is reportedly on a short wish list for Mercedes, but he's angling towards getting a move from AlphaTauri, Visa, Cash App, RB, whatever they're calling themselves today, to go to the Red Bull operation to sit next to Max Verstappen. If he doesn't get that, maybe he's upset enough and finally decides, you know what? The heck with you, I'm gone.
I mean, what was to me on this one right here, what was the basis of letting Sainz out of his seat to pull Hamilton?
The name.
Other than the name.
The name. I'm sorry, it's the name.
It's the name, yeah, for sure.
Plain and simple, it's the name.
2022, 2023, Ferrari won 5 races.
Yeah.
Your count 3-2 in edge of Leclerc.
Mm-hmm. It's not that Carlos Sainz is a bad driver. He's a good driver.
He's a very good driver.
So, I mean, at some point in time, Mercedes might look at Carlos Sainz again. But from what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing right now, Daniel Ricciardo and Fernando Alonso are the 2 that probably are the ones that they're going to be most interested in talking to, at least. Now, think about this, though. Let's presume I'll throw Fernando Alonso out there. He's 42. He's much closer to the end of his career than he is anywhere near the beginning of it.
Way closer.
But he is a big name that would come in, and we've seen what he has been able to do for Aston Martin in the time that he's been there.
Sure.
He would bring a nice replacement name for Lewis Hamilton. Mm-hmm. Now, all of a sudden, we're starting to do all kinds of dominoes when it comes to the seats because Lewis Hamilton leaves Mercedes, goes to Ferrari. Carlos Sainz is a free agent. Mercedes, say, goes and gets Fernando Alonso. That leaves a seat open there. All of a sudden, we start seeing all kinds of hopping from this car to that car, this car to that car. It'll be interesting to watch. It really will be interesting to watch this.
Oh, very.
Because after a practically non-existent silly season last year in Formula One, this year, it looks like it's going to be
a red hot,
very, very hot topic of conversation.
Yep.
Well, let's see what else we can get into. How about moves being made by Red Bull and their sister operation Visa Cash App RB? Talk about that when we come back right here on CRN. So far, all things Formula One. After claiming a new, somewhat laborious name, the Visa Cash App RB team has quickly been shortened by media to VCARB. Can't wait to use that. And has wasted no time making moves. Tim Goss, who recently stepped down as the technical director of the FIA, has moved to VCARB as the chief technical officer. And we talked about this guy not that long ago. Alan Permain, who was formerly of the Alpine team, has now joined officially as well. He's the team's new race director, both of them reporting to new team principal Laurent Mekies. The organization added that they will no longer be considered an entity of their own. They'll have a much closer relationship to sister organization Red Bull. This will include moving out of most of the technical team into the Milton Keynes offices in Red Bull headquarters and sharing parts to the extent that F1 rules allow, just like Haas F1's doing with Scuderia Ferrari. That's not a surprise at all.
Nope.
Speaking of Haas F1, we finally got a look at their new for 2024 racer, which you can see on CRN Live on YouTube right now, courtesy of Haas F1. For those who can't see it, it's a whole lot more black than last year's cars. The color covers the top of the nose, the side pods, the engine cover, which is either painted black or it's bare carbon fiber. I'll let you know that. The color covers the top of the nose, the side pods, the engine cover. The halo's white. The wings are Haas's signature red, so you still have the red, white, and black scheme that the team generally has used since joining Formula One. The new car will be officially unveiled next weekend. Pictures, again, courtesy of Haas F1. It's a pretty good-looking car, but this is fairly typical of what we're seeing now in Formula One because they're trying not to use wrap or paint as much to save just ounces. Literally just ounces. So they're more than willing to leave.
Wait.
They're more than willing to leave that stuff off and go bare carbon fiber.
Yep. To which
which makes sense.
In some cases.
Yeah, to a certain extent.
Let me use this loosely. In some cases, carbon fiber looks better than anything.
I would agree. Petronas is the state-owned oil company of Malaysia. They recently claimed naming rights over the country's main racing circuit, which you may or may not know as the Sepang International Circuit. And now they want to bring Formula One back to Malaysia. Last time F1 raced in Malaysia, 2017, but with rising ticket prices and slowing sales, the contract, which had run from 1999 to 2017, came to an end. Well, Petronas officials announced their plans to bring Formula One back in a company town hall, but otherwise didn't go into detail because, again, they're state-owned by the country of Malaysia, so they'd have to get some approval from government officials. And company officials refused to comment, and it does fly in the face of the country's statement last year when their sports minister, Hannah Yeo, said, quote, if we could host a Formula One race, we already would have done it, but for now, we can't afford to have races. Formula One hasn't commented and likely won't until an official proposal is submitted, and they're probably waiting for Cadillac to come in as a supporting entity. You might remember that last week we talked about Formula One to want to do a street course race in Madrid, but left the door open to host 2 races in Spain if Barcelona has interest in continuing. Barcelona and officials with the Catalunya circuit apparently are, because they've announced a program that will center around some 50 million euros being invested in upgrades and renovations to the facility. Think about what we just talked about when it came to one of the reasons why the Formula One management group denied the the Andretti Global entry. They were worried that it put too much undue stress on the race circuits. Barcelona, Catalunya is putting 50 million euros into their facility to upgrade it. Catalunya has been the host in Formula One since 1991, but their deal comes to an end after 2026. So Spain set to host 2 races, 2025 and 2026, but past that, unknown right now. Among the things being worked on, remodeling the pit complex and construction of a new covered pit building terrace for the Paddock Club that will include a new control tower featuring a private walkway to the stadium and the hospitality areas. Can't tell me that the Paddock Club area and the pit paddock doesn't include making sure they've got enough pit or garages for teams.
You would think.
It's also been announced that officially the name Spanish Grand Prix is going to move to the Madrid race, so officials are working on what the race might be called. Presumably, if they can keep their spot on the schedule, options include the Barcelona GP, the Catalan GP, which is the district of Spain where it is, and this is ambitious, European Grand Prix. Okay, we'll see. As it is, the F1 slate is pretty packed. Let's face it. China's coming back presumably either this year or next. Most feel that 24 races is already the limit for an annual race schedule in Formula One. Malaysia talking about coming back onto the schedule. 3 U.S.-based races, 2 races in Italy, and maybe 2 races in Spain? It'll be interesting to see what change might come as we advance into and beyond 2026. We also learned on Thursday of this week, Formula One set to be racing in Japan through at least 2029. They've extended their deal with the race promoters at the Suzuka race course, high-speed 18-turn course that is a favorite for both fans and drivers. For this year, they're moving up on the schedule to April, slotting between Australia and the presumed China race. F1's hoping to make travel a little bit easier this year than in years past, so they're kind of keeping things a little bit more regional. It does make sense. Mm-hmm. And then there's Liberty Media. They've been valued by Forbes magazine as the most valuable quote-unquote sports empire in the world. Now, what do we mean by sports empire? Well, it means you have a whole lot of fingers and a whole lot of sports all the way around the world.
Yep.
Now, Liberty Media did sell off the Atlanta Braves Major League Baseball team last June, but despite that causing a drop in value of some 12%, the magazine still says that Liberty Media's worth in U.S. money is about $18.22 billion, and that tops the list. In second place, the Kroenke Sports Group. They are the owners of the National Football League's Los Angeles Rams, National Basketball Association's Denver Nuggets, and Soccer Power Arsenal, amongst several entities. They're valued at $15.59 billion. Another racing aspect comes in third, the Fenway Sports Group. These guys own the Boston Red Sox in Major League Baseball, National Hockey League's Pittsburgh Penguins, the English soccer club Liverpool FC, and they've got a fairly decent stake in a NASCAR team that you might have heard of, Roush Fenway Keselowski. They're valued at $12.95 billion. In addition to their NASCAR connection, the Fenway Sports Group was also one of the investors into the Aston Martin F1 team through the investment firm Arctos Partners. Jerry Jones, who simply owns the Dallas Cowboys, well, he probably owns some other stuff, truth be told. He's fourth on the list, followed by the Harris Blitzer Sports and Entertainment Group, which owns the NBA's Philadelphia 76ers and the New Jersey Devils of the National Hockey League. They sit fifth. Billions. Ouch.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be nice? Let's see. Let's get into some NASCAR talk. Grand Marshal for the Daytona 500, somebody that undoubtedly will take some time before the race, if not before the command, to cross-promote a couple of things. It's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. You can see a picture of him right now on CRN Live on YouTube, courtesy of his social media. Johnson probably will end up cross-promoting Fox's WWE coverage, or I would say probably more likely take some time to talk on the NASCAR pre-race coverage about the upcoming first season of the United Football League. In case you didn't know, the United Football League, or UFL, is the result of the merger between the two spring football leagues of 2023, the U.S. Football League, United States Football League, and the XFL. The combination took 5 teams from the XFL, 3 from the USFL, that includes two-time champion Birmingham Stallions, combined their forces. Coverage set to begin in March with a battle between those Birmingham Stallions and the XFL champion Arlington Renegades.
I thought it was 5-5. I was wrong.
Nope. 8 teams in total, 5-3. Calic Racing has announced the driver of the number 16 Chevrolet Camaro for the Busch Light Clash. They're going with Josh Williams, sponsorship coming from Alloy Employer Systems. Williams moves to Calic Racing to run the Xfinity Series full-time this coming year, but in the announcement said to be running several Cup Series races for the team as well. He'll skip the Daytona 500, go from the Busch Light Clash, and then back in the 16 car at Atlanta Motor Speedway in race 2 of the points schedule. The rest of his schedule will be announced soon, the team says. Williams has only 3 Cup Series starts to his credit. All of them came in 2022. Best finish then 25th. That happened twice. But he's
in a better position.
I was about to say, arguably, he's in better equipment.
Oh, for sure.
So, here's the situation. This is the star car. This is the somewhat inexplicable move, at least to us, of pulling A.J. Allmendinger out of the 16 car full-time, putting A.J. Allmendinger full-time into Xfinity, and then saying, okay, we're going to let you run some Cup Series races in the 16 car, still A.J., but we're going to put other drivers in the car as well, Josh Williams being one of them.
Chris Rice and Matt Collick.
Open letter.
If this decision was to lay on my shoulders of who I'm putting in the 16 car for Daytona, I'm putting Josh Williams in.
At Daytona?
Here's why.
Okay.
Here's why. Because if you look in recent races, I'm not going to say recent memory, I'm going to say recent races.
Okay.
Say over the last 2 years.
All right.
Take away Atlanta.
Yeah. Because while they have the rules, it's not the same as Daytona or Talladega.
Daytona and Talladega. Who is the one person that you consistently seen take an underfunded car, a mid-pack car, and by lap 15 or 20, he's flirting in the top 10, if not solidly in the top 10.
Yep.
That's Josh Williams.
Mm-hmm.
He is.
I would agree.
To me, personally, he's taken the role that Landon Castle used to have in my book.
Yeah, I can see that.
Arguably the best underrated, very underrated super speedway racer that is within the top 3 series.
I can buy that. Further kind of going down the road that the 16 Cup Series car is turning into something of a star car, Shane Van Gisbergen, SVG, set to benefit Shane Van Gisbergen, set to benefit from a newly announced partnership between Cowlig Racing and Trackhouse Racing. The partnership will allow Cowlig to pull him from Trackhouse to help fill that number 16. As far as how many races? 6. The first of those will come at Circuit of the Americas, which I find this interesting, and I get it. Okay, I understand in some ways. SVG, Australian supercars, they run on a lot of road courses.
W.
It fits.
W.
Okay. But again, they've also got AJ Allmendinger. And what is AJ Allmendinger known to do? Be a really, really solid road course racer. So I did find it interesting that they had that.
I will not be the least little bit shocked to see 3 Cowlig Cup cars that weekend.
Yeah, I could see that too. Then, from COTA, he'll come to Talladega in the spring to pilot the 16 car. That means that SVG is now officially entered in both Talladega races. That's the plan right now, is to put him in both Talladega races, because he was previously announced to be in the Trackhouse entry in the fall at Talladega.
I thought it was the other way around, the Trackhouse in the spring, so I had it backwards, I guess.
Yep.
So
he'll then test his endurance. He'll compete in the Coca-Cola 600. He'll go back to Chicago to defend his win there. He'll go to Watkins Glen and then get one more shot in the Cowlig car in Vegas.
I won't be surprised if he gets in, because he is eligible. That Uncle Bob Pockers confirmed on social media. He is eligible to run the All-Star race.
Yeah, that's true.
AJ Allmendinger's eligible. So
This could be fun.
who you gonna put in the car?
This could be fun. We'll keep you updated. Speaking of driver lineups, Riley Herbst is set to drive several races for Rick Ware Racing this coming season. Not shocked here. This is going to be the number 15 Ford Mustang. Remember last week we talked about it. Justin Haley, who flipped from Cowlig to go to Rick Ware next year, he's going to drive the 51.
I called this shot.
This makes the 15 their star car. Riley Herbst getting several starts. The first for the Xfinity Series regular going to be the Daytona 500. He will sport his primary Xfinity Series sponsor, Monster Energy drink. That's 2 or 3 cars now? 3 cars. That's what I thought. That are going to be in the Daytona 500 with Monster Energy drink on the hood.
Gibbs, Reddick, and Herbst.
Yep. This will, by the way, be the first in what is expected to be, again, several 2024 Cup races for Herbst in that 15 car. The rest of the slate, though, not detailed. Now, Herbst, who finally won his first Xfinity Series race for Stewart-Haas Racing late last year in Vegas, has 4 Cup starts to his credit. All of them came last year. Best finish, 10th in last year's Daytona 500. This continues his relationship with Rick Ware Racing, despite the fact that the team's relationship with Stewart-Haas technically has come to an end. Rick Ware now has a technical alliance with Roush Fenway-Keselowski. I'll be intrigued to see how this goes, but I'll also add this. I will not be surprised if, in addition to Riley Herbst, Cole Custer gets a couple of starts in that 15 car too. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all.
If he doesn't start that car, who's to say he won't run the third front row car like it ran, the 36?
I could also see that.
Because that 36 car had a legitimate shot to win Talladega in the fall.
Speaking of Front Row Motorsports, we'll talk about them when we come back, because they've got a pretty good-looking paint scheme to talk about. We'll deal with that. Plus, we'll talk about some other sponsorship situations when it comes to NASCAR and the Cup Series, some of which we got looks at, others we don't. I know we've only got one more segment. We'll fit in as much as we possibly can before the end of the show. But yeah, some of the stuff might end up having to carry over to next week. Just saying. We'll be right back after this.
rolling. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Well, Front Row Motorsports, longtime partner Love's Travel Stops, partnering up again this year. This makes a dozen years together. This year, they're going to be on the hood of Michael McDowell's number 34 Ford Mustang in the Cup Series, and also on the number 38 Ford F Series Craftsman Truck Series entry driven by Lane Riggs. You can get an idea of how they're going to look on CRN Live on YouTube right now, thanks to Front Row Motorsports for the picture. More on this as Michael McDowell also continues to partner up with Horizon Hobby. They're a global leader in radio-controlled products. They were the primary sponsor last year when McDowell parked the 34 Ford Mustang in Victory Lane at the Indy Road Course. They've signed on this year to be primary as the race returns to the Oval. We go back to the Brickyard 400 this year. They've also added the first Phoenix race to their primary sponsorship slate. Plan to be an associate sponsor for the remainder of the year. The brand and McDowell made a connection because McDowell happens to be an avid RC enthusiast. Said, quote, Horizon Hobby promotes fun, family, and activities for people of all ages. Can be a kid or an adult and like planes, cars, or boats and have fun with so many different Horizon Hobby products. It's just a cool partner for us in the sport. I just like the fact that he's bringing, and we're seeing more and more new names like this coming into the sport.
And Front Row's doing an admirable job of bringing those new names because they're bringing a lot of new names.
Yeah. Because they're opening up a lot of eyes.
Oh, yeah.
They're doing a really nice job of stepping up in the world.
Yep.
Celsius Energy Drink and Corey LaJoy will continue their partnership in 2024. The brand will be a primary sponsor in at least 4 races this year. The first will be this weekend's Busch Light Clash. The other 3 races planned at this time are the Atlanta race later this month, Chicago Street Course race, and then the Coke Zero Sugar 400 at Daytona in August.
2 of those 3 races, he's got a legitimate shot to win it.
I would agree. Another partnership, one that began in 2021 that will continue this year, is Richard Childress Racing with BetMGM. They're extending this deal, which will put them on both the 3-car of Austin Dillon and Kyle Busch's number 8 Chevrolet Camaro in several races this year. I'm sure Las Vegas will be heavily covered. This all comes as North Carolina has legalized sports betting for 2024, so expect Charlotte to be involved as well. The first race, primary for BetMGM, the Daytona 500.
I think they're doing a preview scheme on the 3-car this weekend, if I'm not mistaken.
That wouldn't surprise me. Mobil 1, longtime NASCAR and racing sponsor, has announced a deal with Toyota Racing Development to cover not only Joe Gibbs Racing, but 2311, not 23x1 Racing, and Legacy MC for the coming year. The deal extends Toyota's efforts along in several other series as well, as Mobil 1 and Toyota will not only be involved in the top 3 NASCAR series, but IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Series, NHRA, ARCA, and other series that Toyota's involved in. This is a heavy, heavy involvement that Mobil 1's getting into with Toyota.
Very.
Big time. And Legacy MC has taken the wraps off a Carvana-sponsored number 84 Toyota for Jimmy Johnson that is an homage to Richard Petty, the other part of Legacy MC. The car will sport the famed Petty blue color that Petty's so well associated with from his own Hall of Fame career, where he became the first Cup Series driver to claim 7 titles. The overall look, which you can see on CRN Live on YouTube right now, thanks to Legacy MC themselves, will have the number font of the famed 43, except it'll be 84. You can also note the Petty 75 logo that we talked about a couple of weeks ago sitting just in front of the rear wheels. And the horsepower number sitting on the sides of the hood is something of a throwback to when those numbers appeared regularly. I wish we'd kind of get back to that, truth be told.
I saw a video where he unveiled it to Richard, and Richard, the first thing he said is the horsepower numbers matches up to what it was back in that day.
Yeah.
And that scheme salutes his 1964 Daytona 500 win.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good-looking car.
Oh, yeah.
There's no doubt. JTG Dougherty Racing has a deal with General Mills that'll put several brands under the company's umbrella onto the number 47 Chevrolet Camaro to be driven by Ricky Stenhouse Jr. First of those this weekend at the Clash, bringing Cheerios back to NASCAR. Over the course of the season, you expect Cheerios to appear a couple more times and maybe some of their other flavors, not just the basic Cheerios, because I think they're doing the heart health, so they're showing that heart-shaped Cheerios on this one.
Yep.
You could also expect brands like Totino's Pizza Rolls. Man, I'm getting hungry. And Old El Paso. Denny Hamlin debuted a Mavis Tire and Auto partnership last year. That'll continue this year in 8 races. It'll start at Phoenix in March and run through Homestead Miami Speedway in October. You got Trackhouse Racing with Daniel Suarez having a new partnership with Choice Hotels coming this year as well, highlighting the Choice Privileges program, the rewards program for regular patrons of any brand under the Choice Hotels banner. This includes, but is not limited to, Radisson, Comfort, Quality, and Sleep Inns, Econo Lodge, and again, other brands. If you want more information, go on to choicehotels.com/choice-privileges. You can find out more. Thanks to Trackhouse Racing for the look at the 99 on CRN Live on YouTube.
Good looking car.
It is. And with Kyle Larson preparing to run the double this year, something on the minds of NASCAR racers and media covering NASCAR as well. With his move from Cowlick Racing to Rick Ware Racing for 2024, and knowing that Rick Ware has a cooperative IndyCar deal with Dale Coyne Racing in IndyCar, Justin Haley was asked about his interest in running the double. I have to admit, not one of the... I wouldn't say he was one of the top 10 names I would have thought of when it came to running the double right now. No disrespect to Justin Haley, but I'm sorry, he didn't make that top 10. If you were to ask me 10 drivers running right now in the Cup Series that would be interested in doing the double, I don't think I would have come up with Haley.
Yeah, I agree with that one. That's one of the last ones that I saw or even thought of trying the double.
It is interesting to note. But Haley responded, he's got no interest in doing that at this time. Quote, I've actually turned down 1 or 2 Indy 500 rides, which is surprising. I don't feel like I'm quite ready for it yet, but I had an opportunity to run it a few years back, and then I think one other time. So I don't know. Not quite yet. I'm not quite to the point in my career where I feel like it's something I want to tackle. Obviously, it would be fun being from Indiana, but I don't know. I just feel like I want to focus on what I'm doing right now. I don't need to venture too far off. Feel like the guys later in their career want to go do fun stuff like that. For me, it's all just kind of focusing on the Cup Series, which, considering the fact that you're at where you are,
sure,
at Rick Ware Racing, which is a bottom feeder right now, I like that answer.
Okay.
Put all of your efforts into helping make this team better.
No doubt. No doubt.
KHI Management, a company owned by 2014 Cup Series champion Kevin Harvick, co-owned probably, has signed a couple of more clients before the 2024 season gets underway. He added Spire Motorsports driver Corey LaJoie to their client list. And, as we mentioned him just a few moments ago, Trackhouse Racing pilot SVG. So with those signings, KHI Management now represents not only LaJoie and Van Giesbergen, they also represent Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Ryan Preece, Harrison Burton, Todd Gilliland, Josh Berry, Riley Earps, William Sawalich, Brent Cruz, a kid you might have heard of, Keelan Harvick, and Landon Lewis. That's not a bad lineup of drivers to start with.
The Landon Lewis tie-in comes from Ron Hornaday. And now Keelan Harvick is getting into full-body stock cars. Yeah, he's climbing quick.
I found this bit interesting. NASCAR and the Cup Series were supposed to be working on a new charter agreement and had a deadline set of January 31st. Well, guess what? As we are live on the air today, it is February the 3rd. We didn't hear anything, right? The window closed without even an agreement on an extension for talks to continue or a new deal. Reports have the teams unanimous in not accepting another extension of the rights negotiating window. NASCAR and the Race Team Alliance have refused comment. But despite the frustration on the part of the teams, most industry insiders feel that a deal will ultimately be reached. We'll see. BJ McLeod Motorsports, still a full-time operation in the wake of Live Fast Motorsports, the team that McLeod was the primary driver for in the Cup Series. They're becoming a part-time operation. So BJ McLeod Motorsports now kind of back in the spotlight, and they have some stability in keeping NASCAR veteran crew chief Pat Trison to continue in that role for this year. At this time, however, the team hasn't announced the driver. I presume McLeod will be back, but that's a presumption.
Yeah, I could agree with that one. Pure presumption. He'll probably run some.
Think it'll be kind of a star car sort of thing?
Probably rotating. So, because there was more stability when Anthony Alfredo was in the seat.
Yeah, and he's moved on. SS Greenlight Racing has announced that they have 24 of the 33 races set this coming season in the 07 entry, and the guy filling the seat, Patrick Emmerling, the former co-owner of Emmerling Gase Racing. Begins at Daytona, his 24 race schedule does. This means he'll be busy this year because he is running for points in the Whelen Modified Tour. He's got 32 Xfinity Series starts to his credit, 17 of them coming just last year. He's claimed 3 top 20 finishes over a limited run of experience. We've seen where this car has, when prepared by Stewart-Haas Racing, done very, very well. My question is what does Patrick Emmerling bring to this? That much, huh?
I'm going to say nothing because he hasn't proven himself enough in these cars. Now, he's a heck of a modified driver.
Yeah. Which is why he's running for points in it.
Yeah. But it probably explains why he's running the ARCA car and the Xfinity car on the same day, just like Shane Van Gisbergen is doing.
This is a training schedule.
Oh, yeah, training.
So they might be thinking long-term at SS Greenlight.
Maybe.
Okay. Craftsman Truck Series news, only one bit here. We got a picture to go along with this. Tony Breidinger, set to run full-time in the ARCA Menard Series this year, will also get the chance to pilot a Tricon Garage entry, as she'll be in the number 1 Toyota Tundra in the season opener at Daytona, bringing sponsorship from the energy drink Celsius. Corey LaJoy's sponsor as well. She did get 3 starts for Tricon in 2023, claimed 15th in her debut at Kansas. That's the best debut for a woman in Truck Series history. She got another top 20 to add to it. Tony, I find Tony interesting because they don't seem to be pushing Tony, and I don't mean this as much as disrespect to Hailie Deegan, but it does seem like Hailie Deegan's being pushed up through the system maybe a little bit too soon. They don't seem to be doing this to Tony.
I agree. Tony is definitely not getting pushed. She's pushing herself.
Which is not a bad thing.
No.
I want the driver to push themselves, not outside forces to push the driver.
She's, how do I word this? She's quietly working her way up one step at a time to keep herself comfortable. Now, she's the winningest female in USAC history. That is notated. But, like, she's running step by step in these full-body cars. She's taking another full season in ARCA.
Yep.
And she's arguably going to be piloting the fastest super speedway car on the track, 25 car.
Yeah.
Keyword arguably. She's got her shot.
She does. It's laid out for her.
She's got to just capitalize on it and just go.
Yeah. Yep.
And she's in a flagship Toyota truck team.
Yes. And in a good truck.
You got to just go. Yeah, the one truck. I mean, she performed admirably at the race I was at Nashville last year.
Yeah. So,
it was admirable. So
we'll see. I wish her the best of luck. Go for it, kid.
I mean, she's quiet. And the thing about it, she's quietly getting better each race.
Yeah. She's learning as she goes along very, very quickly.
And I don't know if you want to say all this apples to oranges here, a comparison, but she's got that appeal. Let's word it that way. She has that appeal to companies and businesses or corporations, whatever umbrella you want to put that in. She's got that appeal where she can be marketed, in my opinion, a little bit better than Hailie Deegan can.
Yeah, I would agree.
Because she's actually got results on the track versus Deegan.
Yeah. And right now, at this point in time, the only thing that Hailie Deegan can hang her hat on when it comes to being in the top 3 levels of NASCAR is being the 3-time most popular driver in the Craftsman Truck Series.
True.
That's it. And that's, don't get me wrong, that's not a small thing. That means she's favorable to the fans, but at the same time, I want to see results on the track.
Yeah.
Speaking of tracks, officials at Phoenix Raceway want to make sure that fans who want to go see the 2024 NASCAR Championship weekend in person can do so, and noted that tickets are on sale right now. Then, well, really, they went on sale as soon as the 2023 season came to an end. But track officials noted that what they've been experiencing over the past 3 years are complete sellouts. The grandstand tickets have actually been sold out before summer. So if you want to go and sit in the grandstands, get your tickets now by going on to phoenixraceway.com. And the Los Angeles Times newspaper reported this week that it seems kind of unlikely that with all the construction going on at Fontana Speedway, that it will be completed in time for racing in 2025. Welcome to California. The report quotes track president Dave Allen, who said, quote, "We've got some internal approvals to work through, but the hope is to have something to go out with sometime in the near future. Right now, we just don't have anything to discuss until we have approvals done." Again, welcome to California. Because it's not just NASCAR approvals that they got to deal with. For those who don't know, a good portion of the land that the 2-mile configuration of the Speedway sits on was sold off, so the track is being reconfigured into a short track, which they say likely is a half-mile track that will reportedly have hints of Martinsville, Bristol, and or Richmond whenever it ever gets completed.
Keyword, whenever.
We're hoping at some point in time in the future, maybe.
Yeah.
Going to flip down to the IndyCar series here. 2 more IndyCar seats for the Indy 500 have been claimed. Dreyer and Reinbold Racing have announced they're going to enter 2 cars for the famed race, tabbing veteran IndyCar drivers Ryan Hunter-Reay and Connor Daly to drive. Hunter-Reay will attempt to make his 16th Indy 500 in the number 23, bringing a good record with him. He won the 2014 edition of this race and has 6 total top 10 finishes in what's arguably the world's most famous race. Daly will be his teammate for the race. He'll be trying for his 11th start in the Indy 500. Remember, bump day this year was going to be interesting, and there ain't no charters in IndyCar. So the champion could be knocked out. Just saying. Daly will pilot the number 24 entry. His best finish came in 2022 when he finished 6th driving for Ed Carpenter. The cars are using Chevrolet power for their pair of races. They'll also be a partner on a 3rd potential entry for the race. Once again, they're talking about pairing with Cusick Racing. The 2 combined forces first in 2021. Last year paired again. Stephen Wilson was the driver, qualifying 25th, but he suffered an injury during practice that forced him out of the car, and they put Graham Rahal in the car instead. Wilson seems the likely driver for 2024, but that was not yet announced. So we'll see. Tickets are on sale right now for the season opener at St. Petersburg. Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg presented by RP Funding. Full weekend of racing. 8 total races will be run, covering 5 different series. Daily general admission tickets, only $25 for Friday, $45 for Saturday, and as low as $70 for Sunday. 3-day grandstand tickets are available. They start at a fairly low $135 per ticket. You can go on to gpstpete.com and find out more. And then some sad news, where IndyCar and IMSA team owner Chip Ganassi was at Daytona last weekend for the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona, but his twice-around-the-clock venture started pretty badly, as it did for a driver that was there as well, because Chip Ganassi ran over this puppy. Ganassi issued a public apology via social media for accidentally hitting and killing the dog, ironically named Lucky, a golden retriever puppy, as he was rolling through the infield motorhome lot. Ganassi posted, quote, "The accident the other night with Devlin DeFrancesco's dog was so unfortunate. I not only feel terrible, but I also feel terrible for Devlin, Katie, and the DeFrancesco kids. On behalf of their dog, Lucky, and the DeFrancesco family, I am making a generous donation to the Indianapolis Humane Society." DeFrancesco responded, quote, "Nothing will be able to bring Lucky back or make the pain go away, but I would also like to say thank you to Chip for his donation to the Humane Society of Indianapolis." I can't imagine that. I mean, I get it for the kids and I get it for Devlin and his wife, Katie, but good grief, for you to be Chip Ganassi and done that.
Yeah. That's, I don't know.
That's tough.
Yeah.
So best of luck to him. Hopefully this doesn't ruin any potential relationship that those guys have. So next week, don't know about John yet. We're kind of on a week-to-week basis now. It just kind of depends on how things go sports-wise for the TV side of things. But in the meantime, y'all have a fantastic week. We'll talk to you again next weekend right here on CRN.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
WDNG 1450 AM
and W236 CQ 95.1 FM Anniston.
95.